you believe that we started recording right in the middle of 2020 with all of the COVID and lockdowns going on around us, unable to meet up? So like many a young gentleman, we turned to the internet for our entertainment. Tried to find a place where we could meet up and talk about the good, the bad, and that time that Stu saw a pelican on the canal. In order to facilitate our dreams of answering all of the big questions in film, and after a few attempts at recording via other methods to various levels of success, we found Zencastr, a super easy web-based one-stop shop for recording. Log in and you're ready to record in a matter of seconds. It doesn't take a tech genius to get high quality audio or video. And on top of that, the one time we have had an issue, the fact that the multi-layered backups are stored locally means it's easily fixed all in browser. There are plenty of tools you need when you start podcasting, so let Zencastr take that headache away, as it offers a place to record, edit and distribute all from one website. Any lazy bones Jones can pick up and play and have studio quality audio or 4K video put out for the world to see when using Zencastr. Go to zencastr.com/pricing and use our code CAGEFIGHTING and you'll get 30% off your first month of any Zencastr paid plan. We want you to have the same easy experiences we do for all our podcasting and content needs. It's time to share your story. And now, hit the music.
Hello and welcome to Cage Fighting. It's your main man Andy Gillard here. Thanks a lot for joining us once again this week. Because we've been doing a little bit of a wrestling theme with it being WrestleMania season, we thought we'd keep that rolling on this week because we need to talk about Dwayne. So if you can bear with me for the next 10 minutes, I have a bit of a rant before Stu will join me in the second half, where we'll be discussing Nick Cage in a 2018 film called 211. So, Dwayne. I think it's been very well documented about his start. He was a failed American football player turned Nepo baby wrestler, turned TV actor, turned B-movie actor. Those are the early years where he still went by The Rock. We saw some fun films. They were either box office bombs or critical shitters, though. The Mummy Returns, Scorpion King, The Rundown, Walking Tall, Be Cool, Doom. The Rock moving from wrestler to actor wasn't money in the bank for any of the producers. 2006 saw Dewey alter his name slightly, now going by Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson. A change in name didn't bring a change in fortunes, though. Southland Tales, Gridiron Gang, The Game Plan, Get Smart, Race to Witch Mountain, Tooth Fairy, Faster. There were a lot of films, some good, most were bad, and pretty much all of them left the studios in the red. Then, 2011, the home for misfit toys, the Fast and Furious franchise brought Dwayne in to play the lovable, charismatic, badass Luke Hobbs. And that was the start of the rise, his embracing of the IP-driven films. The world was heavily into the MCU and Disney were about 12 months from reigniting Star Wars. So 2010, 2011, it was a time when audiences wanted more of that. And this is where Dwayne saw his future lying. Fast 5 was the start, but it did take a couple of years to really find his place in that world. For every Fast 5, Fast 6, even working with Michael Bay on Pain and Gain, there was a Snitch, an Empire State and a Hercules, just to remind you that whilst people have enjoyed some of his films where he's been part of an ensemble, when his name was the name on the marquee, people still weren't quite buying into him. But personally, I think that all changed in 2015, Furious 7. It seemed like for the most Johnson was locking in on that loud, crashy-bashy, action with no depth, easy watching, mindless popcorn flicks. San Andreas, Central Intelligence, Moana, Fast 8, the hits just kept rolling here. Baywatch, Jumanji, Rampage, Skyscraper, Hobbs and Shaw, Ballers on TV, another Jumanji film, Jungle Cruise. During this period of time, Dwayne had been listed as the highest paid actor in 2016, 19, 20, 21, 24. Had it not been for George Clooney's tequila brand, Dwayne would have also been the top dog in 2018. Interestingly, 2022 and 2023, Tyler Perry and Adam Sandler were the top paid actors. I believe because both of those locked into big streaming deals, something which Dwayne would then go on and copy and lead to his rise back in 2024. During this golden run, Fighting With My Family, I think that is the film which really let us see behind the curtain as to what some of the issues are with Dwayne. He was fun and flash and more charisma than you could shake a stick at. But those of us who were around in the 1990s who saw Rocky Maivia turn into the dastardly heel and corporate champion The Rock on his ascent to the top of the WWF, we recognised that he was still basing everything on that run. He just hadn't grown as an actor. To compound this problem, whilst Dwayne carried on doing his Rock shtick, there was another wrestler who tried their hand at doing and what Dwayne had already done, starring in The Scorpion King 3, Man with the Iron Fists, Riddick. But Dave Bautista wasn't happy being just another wrestler turned actor. He wanted to be seen as more than a novelty. Where Dwayne was coasting on his charm and charisma, Dave was building a resume that he wanted to be proud of. 2014's Guardians of the Galaxy was a watershed moment for Bautista. Where Dwayne had taken over a decade to stumble across the $1 billion box office, Bautista had smashed it in half the time. Dave would then go on to work with James Gunn another 2 Guardians films, as well as a few other MCU projects. He would feature in a Bond film. He would get in with Rian Johnson on Glass Onion. Work several times with Denis Villeneuve in Blade Runner and 2 Dune films. He would show his comic chops in Stuber and give us his softer side in My Spy, and then go and stand toe-to-toe with Jonathan Groff and Ben Aldridge in arguably M. Night Shyamalan top 3 film, Knock at the Cabin. Bautista has become one of the most interesting actors working in Hollywood today. Those meathead characters which he would pull out in the early 2010s, they're few and far between. He is still capable of a straight-to-DVD B movie, such as The Killer's Game, but that movie is sandwiched in between the blockbuster Dune 2 and The Last Showgirl, an art house film directed by Nick Cage's first cousin, ironically enough. In the last 5 years, Dwayne has moved well into his slop era. Jungle Cruise aside, Red Notice, DC League of Super Pets, Black Adam, Young Rock TV show, Red One, having to crawl back to Vin Diesel after a very public fallout for the Fast and Furious franchise, albeit only featuring in the post-credit scenes of Fast 10. Whilst Moana 2 did hit pretty big in Christmas 2023, it wasn't a patch on the magic of the first. It was supposed to be a series of shorts which Disney then decided to give a cinematic release to, and yeah, it was fun enough, but it was lucky to be released at a time when there was little to no competition in its particular genre bracket. Amidst all of this, the fans have slowly schlepped away. The latest live-action film, Red One, not even making its production budget back. Young Rock getting cancelled by the network. Black Adam was supposed to be Dwayne taking over the DC film universe. He was going to be the centre of their world. But as soon as the studios got a whiff of how bad it was, Warner Brothers told Dwayne to do one and asked Peter Safran and James Gunn to come in and do what needed doing. Don't get me wrong, his career isn't tattered. The thing is, Dwayne isn't just an actor. Any PR campaign for pretty much any one of his films, they are sold off his back. And when his star hasn't been shining quite the same way, those PR campaigns don't hit. The thing is, Dwayne knows there is one place where that star can get shined up real nice. And that's back in the world of wrestling. Listen, we wrestling fans are idiots. We love nostalgia. Good, bad, ugly. As long as it reminds us of our youth, we are in. It's ironic, really, that Dwayne Johnson, never being able to step away from playing The Rock on the silver screen, would return to playing The Rock on the small screen to reignite his faltering career. Embracing his role as a chairman within the TKO, which is the parent company who owns the UFC and WWE itself. He created the character of the final boss. He centered a multi-year feud all around his character. He became the star of the show. Realistically, I think a more discerning audience may have been a bit disappointed at somebody coming in last minute and taking over. But that's not for me to say as somebody who doesn't really watch that product anymore. But now it does appear as though Dwayne is about to try something new. Something that he's never had to do before. He's going to have to act. A24 and Benny Safdie casting Dwayne as the lead in The Smashing Machine, which is the story of the MMA and UFC champion Mark Kerr, looking almost unrecognisable as Kerr in this film and starring alongside one of the better actors he's ever worked with in Emily Blunt. A24 have a record of making and distributing high-quality art house and independent films. Johnson has a record of making flashy, noisy shit, for want of a better word. It's the unstoppable force meets the immovable object. We will see which gives later this year. For what it's worth, Benny Safdie is the man who got the best career performance out of Adam Sandler, in a drama no less, not even a comedy. So if anyone can pull a performance out of Dwayne Johnson, I think Safdie could be the man to do that. Not to oversell things, but even arguably the greatest director of all time, Martin Scorsese, has seen something in Dwayne, casting him as a mob boss in his Hawaiian set crime thriller. These are two films which will wet the whistle of any cinema goer. However, and of course there is an however, amongst two high-profile and highly anticipated films, there is still the stench of pig swill. We're getting a live-action Moana later this year, San Andreas 2, a Big Trouble in Little China remake that absolutely nobody needs. Speaking of things that are not needed, and despite my love of Emily Blunt, we're getting a Jungle Cruise 2. And of course, the aforementioned Fast 10 Part 2 still to come, and another Hobbs and Shaw film. He's also listed as being taking part in a film about Doc Savage, which is a DC comic book character. So maybe Warner Brothers haven't completely blackballed Johnson following the Black Adam debacle. I have kind of high hopes there, because it's been helmed by Kiss Kiss Bang Bang director Shane Black. So fingers crossed. And look, he's not the worst actor who's ever lived, but he's found his feet doing genre films and let that slide into doing nothing but genre films, where he just plays a dress-swapped version of The Rock throughout pretty much his entire post-WWF career. But no one expects Dewey to go from being Luke Hobbs to playing Atticus Finch. But it would be nice if he could look to somebody like Dave Bautista and try to make a career which will be remembered for more than just that meme of 4 pictures of Johnson where he's wearing khaki-coloured, tight-fitting shirts and combat trousers, with the joke being that it's 4 different films and yet you cannot tell the difference. And this isn't entirely on Johnson. We've seen the rise of second screen viewing, cinemas being full of people who only attend because they want to participate in a film or do all of that full-on performative nonsense for sake of the other fans of the franchise. And I think the lesson that the studios learned of the Barbenheimer marketing strategy hasn't helped anybody really. We're in the slop era of cinema, unfortunately. The biggest earning male actors of the last few years have been those who've pumped out sewage for Netflix. Dwayne may not have been the first here, but I probably become the most high profile of them. Which makes it all the more galling really, because for years Johnson was touted as being the next Stallone or Schwarzenegger. The difference is, Arnie hit Hollywood, a nobody who couldn't even speak the language. He floundered throughout Hercules in New York. Many TV shows and films followed where he was basically credited as the muscle. But then in 1984, something changed. Arnie started to work with great directors and great actors. A number of films over the next decade with James Cameron, John McTiernan, Carl Weathers, Paul Michael Glaser, Paul Verhoeven. Not only getting his action acting chops, He tries his comedy hand as well, working with Ivan Reitman, Danny DeVito, Sigourney Weaver, Jamie Lee Curtis. Where in comparison, Dwayne Johnson is often the focal point of anything. Named directors are so few and far between because Dwayne seems to be the creative force behind everything. And most of his co-stars, they don't ever seem to be people who can really push Johnson into doing better. Arnie went out there and learned to become more, much like Dave Bautista did. Dwayne hit the jackpot and decided that was enough for him. And Dwayne, if you're listening, because I'm sure you're a big fan, if you want to do a Fast and the Furious for the money, I get it. But if you can do a Benny Safdie A24 film before moving on to then do another Spencer in Jumanji or another obscure 80s arcade romp, then you might be remembered as Dwayne Johnson and not only as The Rock. If you smell what I'm cooking. Right, we're going to take a quick break and then myself and Stu will be back. We'll be talking about Nick Cage in 2018's 211. Welcome back to the second half of the podcast, everybody. And like magic, I am joined by Stuart Hall. Not that one. Not that.
I was going to say that would be magic.
It would have, like from prison. Stuart Hall.
Is he in prison still, or is he dead?
I don't know.
Oh, for fuck.
I don't know. No, we're going to have to Google the crimes of Stuart Hall.
He is. No, he's still alive. He's 95 years old.
95, Jesus.
14 sex offences.
So he was released in 14 offences, and he was imprisoned June 2013 to December 2015. 2.5. This isn't the podcast to be discussing this, but Jesus. Wow. Yeah. Anyway. Stu, welcome onto the pods. Did you enjoy 211 with Nicolas Cage? 2018, which, much like Between Worlds, feels like they're lying to us because this is the most 1992 film I've ever seen.
Yeah, this feels like it's been cropped into widescreen rather than, and it was filmed in 4:3 on someone's camera as a joke. Yeah, whereas last week I actually did enjoy myself in a sick way, this I was not happy with. Although, again, there's caveats to it that I thought, to be fair, when it did get going and there was a bit of action and explosions, and I thought that was all right, actually. I mean, I've seen a lot worse than that. But the rest of it, Jesus Christ.
It was something. Like, I made a lot of notes in the first half and then pretty much nothing in the second half, which is a bit kind of the wrong way round, because I would have thought because that was one thing that did piss me off, is it took a third of the film before we saw Nick Cage, and then it was half of the film before anything actually happened in it. Like, proper plodding along nonsense. And then, as you say, we get to the bank heist at about the halfway mark of the film. And then there's just lots of shooting and running and no plot, just noise.
Yeah, it was very bang bang.
It was, wasn't it?
Like the whole thing about like I don't know if ride-alongs even happen anymore.
It feels like something that happens only in The Simpsons. Like, I don't know, but it just doesn't feel like it would be a thing that should be done in today's day and age.
Yeah, especially for something as, I mean, it wasn't a crime of the century, was it really? So it didn't.
No.
I mean, if you've kind of stabbed someone, then you might be saying, yeah, this is what you're going to go and do. But it all seemed a bit strange. Like, why? I'm pretty sure that they're not allowed to have their phones, or they didn't used to have their phones in the back for this reason.
Yeah. Well, that's it. They try and protect their own arse, don't they? The crime that the kid had done was basically punching the shit out of one of his bullies. When his mum went to the school and the school teacher said, our pupils have a motto: if a teen's being mean, to a teacher come clean. I fucking cackled at that. I'm like, what an absolute idiotic thing to say. There was little bits like that did keep me sort of interested in the first half. Just silly nonsense like that. And when we meet the guy who is Nick Cage's son-in-law, and he's doing like what must be the most fake Boston accent I've ever heard. I almost felt like every time he was suggesting a name for the child, he was going to follow it up with "How do you like them apples?" every time, because it's just like that's what he was going for.
Boston.
It was proper. I'm going to take the car to the park. So, what are you doing, mate?
But every time he spoke, did you notice though, his head didn't move? Like he was concentrating way too much.
Yes, you're right. I didn't notice at the time, but you are right. Yeah, it almost felt like he was reading, like the script was just off camera, and he was having to stare at it every time.
Yeah, it it wouldn't surprise me if there was an auto cue with a script on it in this film.
100%. And like, I thought this felt very, very. I said it last week. It was a Lifetime movie. This was a TV film as well.
Yep.
Like you could almost see where they'd put the ad breaks.
Mm-hmm.
Because the action slowed down, and then there was just a shot of a coffee machine or whatever. Like, okay, that's where the ad break goes in on the TV show.
Yeah, and it was filmed like it as well because it looked bad. It was proper. So, and this wasn't like The Hobbit where it was deliberately 24 frames a second or wherever it was. This was proper soap cameras because it didn't look like a film.
No, I know it's a shorthand when you're watching a film. You know when you're in Afghanistan or somewhere of that nature, because they put like a yellowy, orangey filter over it. The scenes that were supposed to be Afghanistan in this movie looks like the most Toronto-based quarry that they could find. Everything like it all looked a bit grey. Like the scenes in the town centre didn't look like a town centre. Not how you present a town centre anyway on film. And the parts that were abroad didn't look it. Everything just had this real sludge look to it. Everything just looked grey and dour and miserable, which is really not what they should have been going for.
Yeah, and no one's watching this. You just listen to us moan about it.
Yeah,
if you
100% not recommending this one to a soul.
Yeah, if you imagine like when it cuts to the fight scenes in Power Rangers, and they're all just in a quarry in Japan somewhere, and all the sparks are flying. That's the exact kind of situation where this was Afghanistan, because it wasn't. It was a quarry. It was obvious it was a quarry because there were tracks on the floor going upwards, and they were not. They were not from all of the dusty, like the ammunition carts and everything. I mean, to even start the film like that anyway, and with the most asylum level acting imaginable.
Immediately, like you said, the start of this film, immediately I was put off because when they were showing the room where they were doing the bank transfer, the woman who was like at the laptop doing the transfer, she was just tapping. You can see that there's only numbers on that screen and a download bar. Why are you typing out letters and numbers? It didn't make any sense. So immediately that put my back up.
And then you the quick cuts before, like a shit version of Swordfish, where it's like watching the initializing thing on the screen, but you can see the cameraman in the reflection of the screen.
It could. You really could. God, it was so badly made, this was. And the acting was no better. We'll come to Cage in a bit. Cage's lad gives us the perfect argument against Nepo babies. Like, if anyone ever says Nepo babies, they dominate Hollywood. Cage's lad is the reason why you can't just be somebody's son or daughter. You have to have like charisma and talent. And he's got the charisma and talent of fucking double Gloucester cheese. He's got nothing about him. He just sort of looks a bit like Nick, and that's it.
Yeah. It's when he could. Why is he not just a cameraman or something like that? He doesn't have to try to be an actor. He should at least got some other kind of talents that just go ahead. But now, oh, I mean, the thing is, he's not even the worst one in it, which is saying a lot.
Who's the worst one, do you think?
Oh,
I've got my opinion, because there's a couple of shitters in this.
I mean, the woman. woman at the start, she was bad. The nurse, who was the ride-along's mom, because of course she was. The daughter, I thought she was pretty awful as well. Especially when she breaks into spoilers, when she busts through the doors of the operating theatre. You can't be in here, and no one's stopping her. No one's saying a single thing, and the doors are open anyway.
Yeah, wide fucking open with a gunshot victim. Just let the germs in, lads. Come on, why not? The agent who was chasing the group, I thought she was absolutely abysmal. Like, maybe it was the accent, I don't know, but everything she said was just awful. There's the one bit where she goes into was it like a pawn shop or something? And
Yeah.
like she's sort of semi-flirting with the guy to try and get information. And he shows her some guns. And she says, "Oh, very pretty." And it was like this fucking neon plastic pink gun. Like, what the fuck are you talking about? She was terrible. And like throughout it, it was just like the pure Botox look throughout it. Like there was no like actual emotions behind anything she said. It was just a dead face and mumbling something in this almost incoherent accent.
Yeah, and to bring you back, very much like Rita Repulsa, and it could very much have been dubbed over in that style as well, because there was absolute lip sync issues in this film.
Yes. Yeah, there was a couple of dubs that I noticed. At the start, when they're getting shot at, the woman dives into the car and shouts, "Ahmed, move, move, move." But you just see her mouth open, like it doesn't move up or down, it's just open. So I'm guessing she screamed or something because they were being shot at and they dubbed it. And like, there were several points where it was very obvious that what they were saying isn't what that actor was saying.
Yeah, and I'm really susceptible to that as well. That's why I can't watch a dubbed film. I always go subtitles for this reason, because it's too off-putting. And I notice it straight away. Like if I mess with my Fire Stick and you go into the or the, you know, with the little dot bounces up and down.
Yeah.
Like sometimes, especially on Smart Tube, because it's a bit of a hack. Sometimes if you're watching stuff on there, it's slightly off. Like you're talking like fractions of a second, and I can notice it straight away. I thought, right, you're wrong. A/B tuning, and go and fix it again, because I can see. I don't know why. It's one of them weird quick things. So this was blatantly obvious, and it wasn't I knew it wasn't the settings, because from 1 minute you can see the talking, because it sounds like it's recorded on set, and then the next there's no background audio. It's clearly just in a booth, and it hasn't been done properly.
Let's see. I doubt they even got a booth, to be honest. I bet they've used like Adobe cleanup like I do on this podcast. Because this looked cheap as bollocks. This looked absolutely horrific. Everything about it. After all of the nonsense that we get at the beginning where it's looking super Canadian, once we get to the halfway point and we get the shots and everything, it looked like it was done on a soundstage.
Yeah.
You've seen when they do ghost towns in westerns, for example, and it's just the front of a building and there's nothing behind it. I'm certain there were points where they drew the camera back and you could see that's where they were filming. There was just nothing there at all.
It reminded me, you know, that set that it's built as like a town plaza that they used in Back to the Future, but they used the same one in Ghost Whisperer, which I mentioned last week.
Yeah.
It reminded me of that. Like this is clearly a set that's being used for multiple things, because the floor didn't look right. There was no grass or mud or anything in the gutters.
Yes. It was too clean for what is a lived-in town or city.
Yeah.
Weirdly, it reminded me of Red Dwarf, the episode of the Guns of Navarone Western one. I don't know why, but I was watching it. I was like, this is Red Dwarf, but nowhere near as funny.
I thought you was going to say that it reminded me of Reading.
No, Reading's nicer than Chesterford, Massachusetts. I don't understand it, because Chester is a place in Massachusetts. Like, it's a fairly small town, I believe. There's like less than 2,000 people who live there when I Wikipedia'd it. Why didn't they just call it Chester, Massachusetts? Why did they change it to Chesterford? I don't get it.
No. I mean,
But then, we're dealing with this level of writer that is just horrendous throughout this film.
yeah. And, maybe these towns have got these kind of rights issues. That's why I thought, like Pleasure Falls and things like that for all the shit Christmas films to watch every year. And for even them, where it's a set, they look better than this.
They do. They do. I mean, we've watched a lot of Melissa Joan Hart nonsense. Some for this podcast and some just for our own enjoyment. And they always look better than this. This is proper barrel scraping bad, I thought.
Well,
anything on your good list though, Stu?
I mean, like I said at my introduction, that I actually thought the action was pretty good. To be fair, when it a lot of it didn't make any sense, which is obviously a bad thing.
Yeah,
but from a flashy bang bang kind of and not good. The temptation must have been there to go shaky cam because it would have been ideal.
yeah, you'd have thought so. It would have worked better in that setting, in fairness, wouldn't it?
Especially when they're like dragging the bodies across the screen and all that kind of stuff, where leave no man behind or woman behind. It would have been easy to put it in there, but they didn't do it, and I thought, oh, fair play to you. And the whole thing about the phone being in the glove box and then not being in the glove box and then being the thing, oh, he has to go and get it back because he's got a dying man's speech to his wife on there. Where
I laughed throughout that speech.
Well, he looks like, talking about Red Dwarf, it looks like one of them things, like in Team America, where I'm getting cold. Because he just got more and more grey. He's like,
he did, didn't he? You could see them desaturating the shot as it zoomed in.
He's gone from almost dead to then giving a speech. And as he's giving the speech, he gets more grey. None of it makes any sense.
I was quite disappointed that they didn't kill him off, if I'm honest.
Yeah.
I wanted him gone. I was like, just get off my TV, you absolute fucking bum. Terrible. What have I got in my good? The only thing I've got in my good, the bank manager looked like a white Uncle Phil from The Fresh Prince. That's the only thing I enjoyed about this film. Because it didn't, I didn't like any of it. Like, it took far too long for Cage to appear, and everybody was terrible, but Cage was so much better when he came on. He turned this film into being shit from being like red hot fiery diarrhea shit. It was still bad, but it was a bit better than really, really bad.
Yeah.
Took far too long because he's clearly the star. Everyone else, they look like they just grab people off the street to put in this film. He's the only one who's got any presence and the only one who's got any acting chops. But it was still horrendous.
Yeah. There's nothing to say about it because I'm trying to obviously we know why he was doing these things, but there's got to be better ways of doing these things. There has to be.
I mean, he may as well just turn tricks on the street corner, to be honest. He'd probably get more money than when he got off something like this.
I mean, we haven't even touched on it. I mean, we've kind of given it and laughed about how bad it is, but it can't be emphasized enough how bad this really is.
Yeah.
Like, it's not even The Room bad, which is funny. There's nothing funny about it other than laughing at certain sections for being... But even that, it's not even laughing. It's just, oh, this is pathetic.
Yeah.
Kind of thing.
It's laughing at how did this get into a film? Because this should have ended up on the cutting room floor because there's nothing there.
Imagine how bad... imagine the parts that got cut for this, if there was any.
Oh, God. Yeah, that fucking sizzle reel of the outtakes. Fucking suicidal by the end of it, how bad it must be.
But it was a bit, the whole thing, like Unforgotten does this as well, and probably a lot of TV crime dramas as well, where you introduce like lots of different people who then kind of interact in different ways throughout the film and throughout the series in that case. And I thought, okay, this is weird doing it in a hour and 40-minute film because you haven't really got the time to do this. But to start off the way it did, we've already mentioned, and then to kind of go around the houses of all these different characters who kind of it didn't really matter about.
Yeah. Like, I'd put that 90% of this film is pretty much inconsequential.
Yeah.
Like, there's so much filler in this movie. This could legitimately have just been an episode of Law and Order or something to that effect.
Exactly what I was just going to say. This feels it feels like an episode, a good episode of something like, I'm saying like NCIS or something like that, where they've got a bit of money. Like, let's open the season well, lads. Let's get some explosions in, and then we can do a backstory episode next week and calm it all down and get that budget round. Because the money's obviously gone on the explosions and Nicolas Cage. That's where the money's gone.
Gotta be, because there's nothing else. Like, visually, this is probably cost less than an episode of Birds of a Feather. Like, there's just nothing there that's visually striking about this film.
No, nothing whatsoever. And I mean, I'm kind of lost for words for once with this, because it is easily the worst film we've seen in 110 or whatever it is now. Easily, without a shadow of a doubt.
It probably is, you know. Like, I didn't watch it and felt angry at the end of it. I felt nothing. Which is arguably worse. Like, it just evoked no response whatsoever from me.
So I thought Next would never be beaten for me. But, Next pisses me off. And even the thought of it makes me mad. It's obviously head and shoulders above this. I mean, this wouldn't even get put on like live TV, where you had the Withering Norwegian and Topley starts. They wouldn't put something like this out.
No chance. They'd lose their 3 viewers that they would get. Like, it's genuinely one of the least interesting things that Nicolas Cage has done. I didn't have a good time at all with Between Worlds last week. I would watch that a dozen times before giving this another shot.
When I was looking at the things because I'd screen grabbed it straight away, that even Cage described the movie as disappointing.
And that's your main man. Like, that's the guy that needs to keep everything together. And even he thought it was a letdown.
And the fact that it says here, Nicolas Cage broke his ankle while filming this movie in Bulgaria and was out of action for 2 weeks. How can you come back from a broken ankle in 2 weeks?
Good God. They probably wouldn't have the budget to let it, like, fester on at all. So they probably just got him back. I mean, even potentially you might find that some of these scenes might have been done before the ankle was broken. And that's why he was barely in the beginning of the film. If they were filming that after the ankle break, maybe.
Yeah, that may be.
Just to get around. I don't know.
I mean, I thought if it had my crazy, just to go there, regardless of all that, is why on earth did we have to have an epilogue? What the fuck was that?
The epilogue. Oh my. I remembered in Left Behind, there's one scene in Left Behind where we see a photo of Nick Cage and his family, and it's clearly photoshopped, put together. And the exact same thing happened in the epilogue to this film. That should probably be my good, because it reminded me of another film that I hate and just made me laugh.
But the whole thing, like, when he turns to camera and smiles and he just goes off. I mean, as he walks,
he says to the kid, "We need to take some more pictures." And then he doesn't even properly walk. Like, he fucking, like when you've had a bad night on the beer and the day after you feel like shit and you're just fucking shambling along. He did that for 2 or 3 steps and then it just faded to black for the end. Like, so bizarre. Yeah, that's a good crazy. the crazy I've got, it's really weird how it feels like Cage did an accent in 2001's Captain Corellius Mandolin and then decided accents just aren't for me anymore. Because it feels like every character he plays now, they're all just born in California and have moved to wherever in their adulthood. Because he's the only one in this film who doesn't even attempt a Massachusetts accent. Why? Like, surely just give him a little bit of something. And I can't think of many other films at all where he isn't at least just giving his normal accent. Like, we've seen him, whether or not it's in fucking medieval England, he's still doing the Nick Cage Californian accent. I find that quite crazy that I'd never really noticed before, but he's just not. Accents aren't for him anymore, I don't think.
Or, hang on a minute. We've got literally a month away where he's an Australian.
Is he in Australia? I know I've seen the trailer, but I can't remember the accent that he does. I wouldn't be surprised if he was a Californian who's just moved to Australia. Yeah. That seems to be his general MO. And I'm cool with it. But for a guy who we know used to do Captain Corelli's and Con Air and Vampire's Kiss, whatever the fuck that accent was, I just don't feel like he bothers with it anymore. I'm kind of looking forward to the next time that we might get an accent out of him. Stu, did you enjoy the film?
No. It was terrible. It felt like it was 5 hours long.
Yeah, I've got the same. It's arguably the worst made film that we've done. I don't think there's any real question about that. For a film that's took, I think it's less than 90 minutes. I think it was 1 hour 28. It took me 4 hours to finish this. I watched the first half. I had a takeaway, so I stopped for my takeaway and then watched like half a dozen episodes of The Simpsons and then came back and finished it. Couldn't do it in one sitting. It was terrible. The whole focus of the film felt like it was wrong. I know it's apparently loosely based on something that happened in the late 90s. So I'm guessing that's why they focused it around Cage and the cops. But really the story should have been the terrible female agent actor chasing the terrorist. I feel like that's where the actual story is. Obviously, there's nothing really they can do about that, but they've just focused it all wrong. And it doesn't work. And ultimately, if this was a Lifetime movie, Lifetime would have shit canned it. They wouldn't have put it out, I don't think. Because I think I've seen like dozens of fucking Lifetime films that are 10 times better than this film. Horrific.
Yeah. It's just abysmal.
Cage good, Cage bad.
He was better than everyone else. And that's kind of not hard. And
yeah.
I didn't think he was bad though. It's a very weird situation where even in the shittest film of all of them, he's still pretty good in his own way. But
I thought he felt a little bit disinterested.
I was just gonna say, he clearly found this in, and he's still better than everyone else. So is that good? I can't say good, and I can't say bad. I think it's just meh.
Yeah, I've gone with, I think bad, but he's clearly the best thing in this film. But I've likened it to, if you imagine a player leaves Southampton and then goes to play in the MLS. Like, he's clearly a terrible player because he's an awful club. But by default, he's playing with people who don't play football as their national sport. So he's incredible.
Yeah.
So I think it's just by default that he's not the worst thing in it, but that doesn't mean that he's good. We've seen him pull terrible films into being watchable just because he's good in them. And he didn't do that. Like, we know he's capable of better. So it's a bad for me.
You're effectively comparing Nicolas Cage to Bradley Wright Phillips here.
Yeah, basically.
But look at his actual Bradley Wright Phillips' record in the MLS is amazing.
Like, he's the Steve Ball of the MLS, isn't he?
Yeah.
He's like one of the greatest players who's ever played there. And like, he was the shit Wright Phillips to him.
Yeah. Brother,
yeah. It's the younger brother, wasn't he, if I remember rightly?
Yeah, because
probably for another podcast, this conversation.
Sean's adopted, isn't he?
They're both adopted.
Are they? Yeah. I thought Bradley was strange. So this is where
This is definitely a conversation for another time.
this is what he's come to now.
I mean, it's more interesting than the fucking film, let's be perfectly honest.
Bradley Wright Phillips adoption. Yeah, there's too much to look for there. Yeah, shit film. Didn't enjoy.
4% on Rotten Tomatoes. I mean, there's only 24 reviewers, but that means that there is one reviewer who gave it a positive review. I'm going to have to find it now because who is mad enough to be the only one? Luke Thompson, writing for Forbes. I can't begrudge you for waiting until 211 shows up on a Blu-ray at a Walmart that also contains 10 other Cage films. But I can tell you that when it does, you shouldn't skip over this one. I disagree. I would struggle to think of 10 worse Nick Cage films than this. I mean, we've got a few left, so maybe there's some Verge in there. But yeah, I don't think that is going to be correct. But yeah, all the other, I mean, there's only 24, so there's not many. But yeah, nobody particularly enjoyed this. The audience score was 11%, so that's also low. Because I know Between Worlds last week, that was 33% critical and 79 on the audience score, which is just mental. But yeah, nobody's giving this film the time of day, and understandably, rightly so. I don't think.
Yes. I mean, just to confirm, I was right. Bradley Wright Phillips is the son of Ian Wright. Sean was adopted. So
I thought
it's the half
Right.
brother.
I thought they were actually related, and he adopted both of them.
No.
Okay. Interesting. If you enjoyed 211, you may also like
Pins in your eyes. I bet. I mean, for some reason, I was thinking this for maybe because when the standoff started, and it's not really the same at all. But for some bizarre reason, I had The Negotiator in my head.
Okay.
Which is actually a really good film.
Yeah, I haven't seen that for ages, but yeah, that's good shout. The one I've gone with, it's another one that I've not seen for a while, but I've wanted to rewatch. And if you haven't seen it, I'll be kind of surprised because it's up your street. The Town.
The Town.
It's starring and directed by Ben Affleck.
Oh, Ben
John
Affleck,
Hamm
yeah.
in it.
Yes, I have.
Yeah. Jeremy Renner giving probably my favourite performance of his. Rebecca Hall, Pete Postlethwaite, who I'm like, he's one of the best. Titus Welliver, who I know you're a big fan of. Bank robbery thriller, group of childhood friends. And then like when they're trying to keep the kidnapper silent after the events of the bank heist, one of the number falls in love with the bank manager and things go a bit sideways.
They've got weird masks on, haven't they? Or something like that.
Yeah, I think it's nun masks or something like that.
Yeah, probably something like that, yeah.
It's been a good few years since I've seen it, and it's one that like I really like Ben Affleck, and I keep meaning to revisit it. But yeah, that's a cracking film.
That was one of the first films I saw on my own. It was in a kind of
2010, was it something like that?
It's got to be. Yeah, it was after uni, definitely.
Yeah, 2010. I wonder where it falls in Ben Affleck's filmography, to be fair. Like as a director, because I really like all of the films of his that I've seen him directing. I think he's
yeah, he was
just outstanding. Yes. Yeah, it's a great film. But yeah, it's one that we've never spoke about before, and it did make me wonder. I wonder if you've seen it, and if you hadn't, I think it would definitely be definitely be something you would be interested in. It is what we're looking at, right? So it's Gone Baby Gone. Obviously, it looks like it was the second film that he directed. I mean, in fairness, this is a good filmography. Gone Baby Gone, The Town, Argo, Live by Night. I haven't seen that one. Air, I think, is a solid one. The Dunkin' Donuts adverts that he did earlier last year for the Super Bowl as well. But he directed those, and those were great fun. Doesn't look like it. Has he got anything else coming out?
I was just looking at that.
Leopold's Ghost, Witness for the Prosecution, Animals. don't know much about any of these films.
I mean, look at him as a producer. I was thinking, oh, we could do Affleck.
Mm.
If you go on the producer, he's done some interesting stuff there.
I'll have a look at that in a second. This sounds good, Stu. Animals, desperate to pay for their son's ransom, a mayoral candidate and his wife resort to extreme measures, revealing dark secrets they never intended to bring to light. It is directed and starring Ben Affleck. It has got Gillian Anderson in, and it has got Stephen Yeun in as well.
Ooh.
I am looking forward to that one, and I hadn't even heard of it until like 5 seconds ago. That's my kind of film. Right, producerial. Let's have a look at what he's been doing here. Because I know that I can't remember the name of the show, but him and his best bud Matt Damon, they used to do that show where they were green lighting films. So I know he does a fair bit of producing stuff via his company. I think he's very big on giving young up and coming talent the chances to actually put their film onto the big screen. Obviously, I expect that is probably coming from his time doing Good Will Hunting, being the creative force behind that with Matt Damon. Holy crap, he has got quite a lot. And looking at it, there's a lot of different types of films there as well.
Yeah, there's weird stuff. What is this? Feast?
Yeah.
Patrons left inside a bar, forced to fight monsters.
That sounds class.
6.2.
Judah Friedland's in there. I like him.
Ralph Zargetti, what a name.
Yeah, just some real random stuff in here. That excellent. But yeah, I love Ben Affleck. I feel like, do you remember there was a time, I mentioned it last week, like everyone hated Keanu Reeves for no real reason.
Yeah.
I feel like Ben Affleck went through a similar run. I think it was when he was first with Jennifer Lopez. When they first got together, people seemed to hate him because he did a couple of films that weren't brilliant. Like Gigli. Gigli's not a good film. It's not the worst film I've ever seen, granted, but it's still not a good film. And it felt like Affleck was the next Keanu Reeves, getting undue hate in spite of the fact that he's a tremendous actor.
When was Gigli? Let's have a look.
I feel like maybe 2005.
Affleck. Because maybe that was the
2003.
Yeah, so all that stuff and State Barkley, Jennifer Lopez, all that stuff kind of making it mock of him. Maybe that's why no one wanted to watch The Town with me. Maybe that's why I went on my own.
Maybe. Because yeah, looking at it, we had, obviously done the stuff with Kevin Smith, then Changing Lanes, Sum of All Fears, decent films. And then we had a run of doing The Third Wheel, Daredevil, Gigli. Films that people didn't like. Even Jersey Girl, which is a film I do like, obviously being a Kevin Smith fan, that was Affleck and Lopez. That kind of got dismissed because of those pair being in it. But in between that, he was doing Paycheck, Surviving Christmas, Stu. Is that one that you like?
That's the one where he has to... No, that's 4 Christmases. Surviving Christmas is... I think he's is that the one where he's a CEO?
A lonely, obnoxious young millionaire pays
and
Christmas with him.
Yeah. It's good, that is.
Hollywoodland, that was a good film. I enjoyed that. Affleck might be a good shout to go with in the future. But then again, most of these films are good. I think we need someone who's got as much bad as good.
But nothing's going to be as bad as this.
No. I was kind of thinking, could we do... Obviously, I might just be because we're doing wrestling stuff at the minute, but if we just went and started to watch all the films that involved wrestlers, would that be good? And we can try and figure out who the best wrestling actor is and who the worst.
Oh, yeah, because then we could watch the Marine films.
Have you never seen the Marine films?
Again? I've watched 3, I think. I've watched 3 of them. Is there more than that? I presume so.
I think there might be 5. The Marine, because it starts off with John Cena and then it becomes Ted DiBiase Jr. Then it's
Miz.
The 6. Then it's The Miz, who's in 3, 4, 5, and 6. Shawn Michaels is in 6 with Becky Lynch. That one really fucking stinks as well, that film does. I've watched a lot of the WWE Studios films. There's very few watchable ones in there.
Yeah,
They're really bad.
I've only watched. Oh, that's 3 films I haven't seen. Yeah, I've watched the first one with The Miz. That's why I knew I knew it was him.
It's weird because like it just changes because you go with Cena and then DiBiase and then you just give Miz the rest of it. And The Miz isn't a good actor. He just lives in Hollywood. that seems to be the only prerequisite for why he's in so many of their terrible, terrible films. You need to watch at Christmas time, Stu. This might be what we'll watch for Christmas. The Miz is in a film. Let me find it. It's it honks. The problem with IMDb when you look at any wrestler is it keeps all of their wrestling credits as well as like under acting, where obviously that's not really the thing. Oh God, where is it?
You're talking about Santa's Little Helper?
It might be. Oh God, where? I think it is, Stu. The one with Soraya / Paige in.
Yes, I've seen it.
Yeah. Oh, it's bad. And Christmas Bounty as well, 2013. That's really
I've seen that one.
terrible. I mean, they're fun terrible. In fairness, like they're not. I mean, some are unwatchable. I've got to be honest, but most of them are like at least lifetime quality.
That's what you need.
Can't put myself through watching the fucking WWE studio films again. There, I spent one. Was it the COVID summer? It might have been the COVID summer I spent watching all of the WWE studio films. Never again. Never again. Right, we've somehow hit 40 minutes on this shit. Right, okay.
Just imagine if I hadn't been boycotted to talk about Dwayne, because I actually do like him quite a lot, even though he's terrible, but in a fun way. But yeah, this could have been 2.5 hours again.
Easily. I mean, it still might be. I've somewhere recorded the first hour after we've done this. Right, okay. Next week we'll be doing the summer film preview. I need to ask Ash Dolan, so I'll make a note of that to return. So I thought like last time, we do it in 4-month blocks because so much changes so quickly. It's pointless doing half a year and half a year. So next week we'll be talking about May through to August. What is due to come out there, and we will be watching, Stu, Nicolas Cage on Saturday Night Live. So he's only hosted it once, but that's what we'll be watching to discuss next week.
Where is this available?
I shall tell you. I will send you the file because I don't know if it exists anywhere, but I've got it. So yeah, I will send you the link for it. Where was? Oh yeah. So make sure you've got us on your podcatcher, and if you could give us a 5-star review, that would be phenomenal. Socials at Cage Fighting Pod, emails cagefightingpod@gmail.com. And for this week, Stu, would you like to say goodbye?
If the Miz name wins WrestleMania, this is proper visionary stuff. Goodbye, everyone.
Ending it with a Miz. I mean, I wonder if he's even got a match. Again, I'm not the person.
As if that matters.
Yeah, true. WrestleMania. Is it 41 maybe? Is that the shit? Yep. I need to find out, right. The Miz is one of the worst actors I've seen and one of the worst wrestlers. So I don't think, it doesn't look like he's even got a match at it's 2 nights of that shit and it goes on for like fucking 10 hours. And he hasn't even got a match. That tells us the level we're dealing with here. Anyway, it's goodbye from me too. And remember, be excellent to each other.